So here's the thing. I'm just going to lay it all out there because I've reached a point where I really need to get this off my chest, and honestly, I don't know what else to do. My name's Mike, and I've been married to Emily for about 5 years now. It's not like we were perfect, but I thought we were solid enough. She's a pretty fiery girl, a little bitchy sometimes, but I liked that about her, kept things interesting. We had our ups and downs like any couple, but I never suspected that she'd betray me like this. The last few months, I started noticing little things that didn't quite sit right. She'd be more distant, cold even, acting like she was mad at me over small stuff. I'd ask her what was wrong and she'd brush it off, say I was imagining things or that she was just tired. But I knew something was off. She'd come home late from work sometimes, smelling different, more feminine, I guess. I'd catch her sneaking her phone away when she thought I wasn't looking, or her messages would suddenly disappear. Still, I didn't want to jump to conclusions. I told myself maybe she was just stressed or working late, but deep down I felt a gnawing suspicion. Then came the day of my sister's funeral. That was supposed to be one of the hardest days of my life. My sister Lily, she was everything to me, my best friend, my confidant. And on that day, everything just felt so wrong from the start. Emily was acting weird, distant, cold, almost like she didn't care. She kept giving me these cold glances, like she was angry or annoyed. During the funeral, she barely looked at me, didn't hold my hand or show any sympathy. I was just trying to hold myself together, but her behavior was making it impossible. The day was exhausting, emotionally draining, and I kept trying to focus on my family, on Lily's memory. But I couldn't shake the feeling that Emily was hiding something. After the funeral, we went back to the house for a small gathering with family and friends. That's when I caught her. I'd gone to the bathroom and noticed her phone vibrating on the table. I wasn't trying to snoop, but I saw a message pop up on the screen, something from her boss, Jason. It was innocent enough at first glance, just a work thing, but then I saw the way she quickly fumbled to lock her phone. That moment my stomach sank. I just knew that something was going on. I looked at the message preview and it wasn't just professional talk. It was flirtatious, suggestive, talking about how much she missed him, how she was thinking about sex with him. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I couldn't believe it. My wife, my partner, was cheating on me with her boss, right in our own house during the worst day of my life. I felt like I was in a nightmare or some bad joke. I didn't say anything right then. I just took a step back, my mind racing, trying to process what I'd just seen. I felt cold, numb, furious. I wanted to confront her right then and there, but part of me was just in shock. I kept the phone in my hand as she finished talking to everyone, trying to act normal, and inside I was burning with anger, betrayal, heartbreak. How could she do this? How could she betray me when I was barely holding it together? I thought I knew her, I really did. Turns out I was blind. That night I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, her face flashed in my mind. Her cold, fake smile at the funeral, the way she avoided me all day, her texts with Jason. I kept thinking about how she lied about everything, how she kept up this act of caring while she was out there screwing her boss. I was furious, but mostly I felt broken, like the ground had shifted beneath my feet. I stayed up until the early hours, staring at the ceiling, trying to piece it all together. I replayed the day, her strange behavior, the phone, the looks she gave me. It was clear she'd been sneaking around for a while, hiding something. I didn't want to believe it, but the evidence was right there. She had been lying to my face, pretending everything was fine. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach, then kicked while I was down. The next morning, I knew I had to confront her. I didn't want to do it right away, though. I needed time to think, to plan my words. I couldn't just off half-cocked. So I waited until she came home from work, which was early because she said she had an emergency at the office. She looked tense, nervous almost. I watched her walk in, her shoulders stiff. I could see the slight flicker of guilt in her eyes, or maybe just the nervousness of a liar. Whatever it was, I didn't hold back. As soon as she sat down, I looked her straight in the eyes. "We need to talk," I said quietly but firmly. Her face suddenly went pale and she tried to brush me off. "What's there to talk about, Mike? Everything's fine." I didn't buy it. I pulled out my phone and showed her the message. Her face twisted into a smirk, the kind she always gave when she thought she was clever. "Oh, it's nothing, just work stuff. Jason's just a friend, you're overreacting." Her voice was dismissive, like she thought I was stupid. I lost it. I told her I saw the messages, that I knew she'd been cheating and I wanted the truth. She rolled her eyes, sighed like I was some kind of burden, and then she started lying, saying it was all a mistake, that she was just stressed, that she never meant for it to happen. She even tried to make me feel guilty, saying I was too busy with work, that I never paid enough attention to her. I couldn't believe how cold she was, how she spun her web of lies. It was like she was trying to gaslight me, make me doubt what I saw. I felt so many things in that moment: anger, heartbreak, disgust. I asked her how long it had been going on. She hesitated, then finally admitted it had been a few months. She said she and Jason had a thing, but she claimed it was over now, that she loved me and was sorry. Sorry. Sorry doesn't cut it. Not when I found her cheating during one of the worst days of my life. That's when I realized how deep her betrayal ran, how she'd lied to my face all this time. I wanted to scream, to shout, but I just sat there processing it all. I told her I couldn't trust her anymore, that she had destroyed whatever little faith I had left in our marriage. I felt like a fool, like I'd been played for a sucker. But at the same time, I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. I knew I had to decide what to do next. Do I forgive her? Do I try to fix this? Or do I walk away and start over? Honestly, I was too overwhelmed to answer right then. All I knew was that my world was falling apart and I was just trying to hold on. After that confrontation, everything changed. The house felt colder, emptier, even though she was still there. I couldn't look at her without feeling sick. Every little thing she said sounded like a lie. I started noticing more little clues: her phone constantly glued to her hand, her disappearing into the bedroom for long periods, her avoiding any real eye contact. It was like she was trying to hide the guilt, but there was no hiding it from me anymore. Deep down, I knew this wasn't just a fling. It was something serious, something she'd planned and kept hidden for months. I knew I had to do something, but I wasn't sure what. Part of me wanted to just pack up and leave, cut all ties, and forget I ever knew her. But another part, darker, more vengeful, wanted to make her pay for what she did. I wasn't the type to just walk away quietly, not after this. I decided I'd gather some evidence, something concrete, so she couldn't deny everything later if I decided to leave. I started paying close attention, sneaking around, checking her phone when she was out, following her when I could. I wanted to see if she'd slip up again, if she'd meet him somewhere, or if she'd keep lying to my face. One day, I found my chance. She said she was going to a business meeting after work, but I decided to follow her. I parked a few blocks away and watched her slip into a small hotel. My stomach knotted up as I saw her walk in with Jason. They couldn't see me, but I watched as they entered the room, and I knew this was it. They were definitely screwing around. I didn't stick around long. I knew I had enough evidence now. I snapped some photos on my phone, made sure I had proof of her lying, of her with him. I knew then that this was the moment I'd decide what to do next. That night I couldn't sleep again. All these feelings, anger, betrayal, sadness, hit me all at once. I felt like I was losing my mind. I kept thinking about everything she'd lied about, how she'd betrayed us during the funeral, how she couldn't even look me in the eye anymore. I sat there in the dark, clutching the evidence I'd taken, asking myself whether I should confront her again or just cut my losses. Part of me wanted to break her, to make her pay for what she'd done. The other part just wanted to run away, forget everything, and start over somewhere new. The truth was, I didn't know which way I was leaning yet. I was just overwhelmed with everything. In that moment, I realized I'd been a fool. I'd trusted her, loved her, built a life with her, but she had thrown it all away. I'd stayed loyal, tried to make things work, and this was the thanks I got. I hated her for what she did, but I also hated myself for not seeing the signs sooner. I kept asking myself how I could have missed it, how I could have been so blind. The pain was immense, but I knew one thing: I couldn't keep pretending that everything was okay. I had to decide if I was going to fight for what little was left of our marriage or just tear it apart and move on. Either way, I knew my life would never be the same. Over the next few days, everything felt like a blur. I was walking around in a fog of anger, pain, and confusion. I'd always prided myself on being rational, but this betrayal threw me into a storm I didn't see coming. I kept replaying her words, her lies, the way she looked at me with that fake innocent face right before I found her with Jason. It was like the whole foundation of my life was crumbling, and I couldn't do anything to stop it. I knew I had to confront her again. There was no way I could go on pretending I didn't see what I saw. But this time, I wanted to be prepared. I sat her down one evening after work. She looked exhausted, a little more tense than usual. I set the evidence on the table, screenshots of her texts, photos of her and Jason, the hotel receipts. Her face froze for a second, then her eyes narrowed like she was trying to hide her panic. Her mouth opened, but no words came out at first. She finally started lying again, spinning some story about how it was just a mistake, that she didn't mean for it to happen and that she was only human. She said she was stressed, tired, overwhelmed, like that was some kind of excuse for sleeping with her boss. She insisted she loved me, that it was just a fling, that Jason was just a bad phase she was going through, but I wasn't buying any of it. I saw her desperation, the way her voice trembled, and I knew she was lying through her teeth. I felt something break inside me. The anger boiled over, and I told her I'd had enough, that I wasn't going to be played anymore. I told her I wanted her out of the house, that I was done with her lies. Her face twisted into something ugly, anger, defiance, maybe even hatred. She tried to argue, to plead, but I cut her off. I told her she could take her stuff and leave, that I didn't want to see her face again unless it was to pack her bags. The moment she grabbed her purse and started crying, I felt a mix of disgust and relief. Disgust because I realized how much she'd betrayed me, and relief because I finally saw the truth clearly. I'd had enough of her bullshit, her lies, her betrayal. I wasn't going to be a victim of her selfishness anymore. I knew I'd be okay, even if it hurt like hell right now. This was the end of our story, her choice, her consequence. That night I stayed up again, staring at the empty space where she'd been. The house was silent, and it was like I was alone in a room full of memories. I kept thinking about everything we'd been through, all the lies she told, all the times I ignored the signs because I wanted to believe in us. I felt broken and angry, but I also knew one thing. I had to move on. I had to rebuild myself from the wreckage she left behind. No matter how much it hurt, I knew I'd come out of this stronger. That was my plan. Just get through the pain, learn from it, and never let anyone betray me like that again. In the days that followed, I felt like I was waking up from a nightmare I couldn't quite escape. The house was eerily quiet without her, and every corner seemed to echo with her absence. I threw myself into work, trying to drown out the chaos inside my head. But even in the busiest moments, her face haunted me. Her cold excuses, her fake tears, her betrayal. It was a constant reminder that I'd been played, used, and discarded like some cheap toy. I started thinking about how I'd let myself get so blind. I was one of those guys who always believed in loyalty, in honesty. And she, Emily, she was the one I trusted the most. But she turned out to be nothing more than a liar and a cheat. I kept telling myself I should be angry with her, but honestly, I was mostly just hurt. Deep down, I felt like I'd lost a part of myself, like I was trying to hold on to a life that was never really mine anymore. One day, I decided I needed closure. I reached out to Jason, her boss, just to hear what he had to say. I needed to know if she'd been honest with him too, if it was just a fling or something more serious. I called him, and surprisingly, he answered without hesitation. He was cocky, dismissive at first, calling me that guy who's been left behind. I told him I knew about them, about the affair, and I wanted to hear his side. That's when he admitted it was more than just sex. He said he was falling for her, and she was falling for him too. They'd been sneaking around, planning the whole thing for months. Hearing that made me furious. Not just because she cheated, but because she lied, manipulated me, and played with my life. I felt a surge of rage I'd never experienced before. I realized she'd been using me to cover her own insecurities, her need for excitement, while she was out there screwing her boss. It wasn't just about the sex, it was about her betraying the trust we built over years. I wanted to smash something to make her feel the pain she'd caused me, but I held back, knowing that revenge wouldn't bring back what I'd lost. All I could do was accept that she was gone and focus on healing myself. That night, I sat alone in our empty living room, looking at the pictures we'd taken together. I thought about all the good times, all the promises, and how they had been shattered in an instant. I realized that some things can't be fixed, no matter how much you want them to. I knew I had to let go, even if it hurt like hell. Sometimes you have to accept that people reveal their true colors when it's too late to do anything about it. You learn to live with the pain, and eventually, you find a way to forgive yourself for trusting the wrong person. That's what I was trying to do now, trying to move forward no matter how hard it seemed. In the end, I realized that betrayal cuts deeper than I ever thought possible. I used to believe in honesty, loyalty, and the idea that love could conquer everything. But watching her walk out that door, knowing she had chosen Jason over me during the worst day of my life, shattered that belief. Still, I learned something important, something I wish I'd understood sooner. Trust isn't given, it's earned. And once it's broken, it's almost impossible to repair. I've spent weeks trying to piece myself back together. Some days are better than others. I've come to accept that she wanted to destroy what we had, and I can't do anything about that now. The only thing I can do is rebuild myself, learn from this, and move forward. I've started going to therapy trying to understand how someone I loved could betray me so ruthlessly. It's a slow process, but it's necessary. Looking back, I see now that I was blinded by love and loyalty. I ignored the signs, convinced myself that she was just stressed, tired, or maybe going through a rough patch. But I was wrong. She was hiding a different life, a life built on lies, sex, and betrayal. And I was just a pawn in her game. It hurts to admit that, but I have to. Because only when you accept the truth can you truly move on. My advice to anyone reading this: don't ignore the signs. If your gut tells you something's wrong, listen to it. Trust is fragile, and once broken, it's nearly impossible to fix. And if you find yourself betrayed, don't blame yourself. People have their own choices to make, and sometimes those choices hurt the worst. You have to decide whether to fight for what's right or let go and save what's left of your sanity. For me, I've chosen to let go. I don't know what the future holds, but I know I'll be okay. I'll rebuild my life piece by piece and learn to trust again, this time more carefully. Sometimes people like Emily show you who they really are, and all you can do is walk away from the wreckage and hope to find something better. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's that no betrayal can define me, only how I rise from it.